The humans been refusing rations for 6 cycles, and Command just issued a survival critical alert. But the juveniles are bringing her food anyway. Commander Zilak stared at the security footage, his secondary arms twitching in agitation. This made no sense. None of it made sense. "Explain this again," he said, though Medical Officer Azila had already explained it 3 times. Azila's antenna drooped with exhaustion. "The human prisoner, Emma Johnson, has refused all official rations since her detention began. According to every biological metric we have, she should be in complete organ failure. Her species requires regular caloric intake. 6 cycles without food should have triggered cascading system shutdowns by now. But she's not dying. No, Commander. She's weak, but her vitals are stable. Impossibly stable." Zilax rewound the footage again. There. Movement in the ventilation shaft. A small form, barely old enough to walk upright, squeezing through the narrow passage. One of the refugee cubs from Block 7. The juvenile approached the human cell, clutching something in its tiny hands. A ration pack. "How are they accessing the dispensers?" Zalax demanded. "Unknown. The dispensers require adult biometric authorization. But we've logged 17 unauthorized withdrawals in the past 6 cycles, all during rest periods." Azila pulled up another screen, all corresponding to times when the cubs visit the human cell. On the monitor, the cub pushed the ration pack through the bars. The human, Emma, lay on her sleeping platform, barely moving. But when she saw the cub, something changed in her posture. She dragged herself upright, accepted the food with trembling hands. "She takes it from them," Zilak said slowly. "We've tried to give her food directly. She refuses. Medical staff tried forced nutrition. She fought them. But she accepts stolen rations from refugee cubs. Every time," Azila confirmed. "The cubs bring food. She takes it. We found empty wrappers in her cell. Then she's eating. Barely enough to survive. Maybe 200 calories per cycle. A human her size needs at least 1,500. Zilax's comm unit blazed red. Priority signal from the council. He activated it with dread. "Commander." Council leader Vex Thul's voice carried the weight of political disaster. "Update on the human situation. The Terran Coalition is demanding proof of life. If Emma Johnson dies in our custody, we're looking at diplomatic sanctions, possible military intervention. Her file indicates she's a relief worker who crossed the border to deliver medical supplies to our refugees. The publicity nightmare alone." "She's alive," Zilax interrupted, "but refusing to cooperate with standard nutrition protocols. Make her cooperate." "We've tried, Council Leader. Her species has documented tendencies toward self-sacrifice. Hunger strikes, political protests. She may be attempting—" "I don't care what she's attempting," Vex Thul snapped. "Keep her alive. Use any means necessary. The Terran reputation for dying to prove points is well documented. We cannot have a martyred human on our station." The comm went dark. Azila pulled up another feed. "Commander, there's more. The cubs visiting her. They're from the refugee crisis group, the ones from the Cleavar colony destruction." Zilax felt his blood chill. The Cleavar cubs were the worst cases. Severe trauma, wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat properly, wouldn't respond to any therapeutic intervention. They'd been placed in Block 7 under minimal supervision because nothing the staff tried made any difference. "These cubs are starving themselves," Azila continued. "We've had them on reduced rations due to the supply shortage. But even those reduced portions, they won't finish them. Won't cooperate with feeding staff. Some haven't spoken since the colony fell. On On screen, the cub watched Emma eat a single bite of the ration bar. The juvenile's eyes, too large for its small face, tracked every movement. When Emma nodded and smiled weakly, the cub made a soft chirping sound. The first sound any staff had heard from that cub in 47 cycles. "Pull all footage of the cub's visits," Zilax ordered. "Every second. I want to understand what's happening in that cell." Because something was happening. Something that violated every protocol, every logical procedure, every trained response he'd learned in 30 years of station command. A dying human was accepting food from starving children. And somehow, impossibly, they were both still alive. Azila entered the detention cell carrying a meal tray, her medical scanner already reading Emma's deteriorating vitals. "Ms. Johnson, you need to eat, please." Emma looked up from where she sat cross-legged on the floor, her face pale but her eyes alert. "I appreciate the concern, really. But I'm fine. Just not hungry for that food." She gestured weakly at the standard-issue ration pack on the tray. "Not hungry?" Azila's voice rose despite her professional training. "Your glucose levels are critically low. Your body is consuming its own muscle tissue. These rations are nutritionally perfect for human biology. We verified the formula with the Terran Coalition database." "I'm sure they're very scientifically balanced," Emma said, her smile somehow genuine despite her obvious weakness. "Still not interested." Zilax stepped into the cell behind Azila, his command presence filling the small space. "Ms. Johnson, let me be clear. You must eat. Diplomatic protocols require we maintain your health. Your government demands it. I'm ordering you to consume adequate nutrition." Emma's smile didn't waver. "Did you know those kids haven't been properly fed in 3 days?" The question landed like a concussion blast. "What kids?" Zilax said slowly. "The cubs. The little ones who keep visiting me." Emma pointed toward the wall she shared with Block 7. "Their rations have been cut, severely. They're barely getting 20% of what they need." Zilax and Azila exchanged glances. "How could you possibly know that?" Azila demanded. "You've been in isolation." "There's a crack in that wall. Ventilation gap, maybe. I can see into their common area." Emma shifted, and the movement clearly cost her. "I've been watching them. They're starving, Commander. Actual children going hungry, while you people keep trying to force-feed me gourmet ration packs." Zilax's comm unit was already out. "Supply officer, pull up Block 7 juvenile rations allocation, now." The response came in seconds. "Commander, Block 7 is on emergency conservation protocols. Due to the refugee supply shortage, juvenile rations reduced by 80% until the next supply shipment arrives. Standard crisis management procedure." Zilax terminated the call, his mind racing. He turned to Emma. "You're refusing food to protest the cubs' treatment." "Bingo," Emma said quietly. "That's absurd," Azila interjected. "You starving yourself doesn't give them more food. It doesn't solve anything. It's purely symbolic protest that will end with your death." "Maybe." Emma leaned her head back against the wall. "But at least someone's noticing now, aren't they?" "The cubs are bringing you their rations," Zilax said, pieces clicking together. "The food they won't eat themselves. They're stealing it and giving it to you. They're very sweet kids. You're accepting food from starving children." The words felt grotesque in Zilax's mouth. "They insisted." Emma's voice was soft. "I tried to refuse the first time. The little one, the smallest, with the blue markings, she cried. Actually cried. So I took a bite, just to make her feel better." Azila pulled up her medical scanner data, cross-referencing it with the security footage timestamps. You're eating approximately 1 bite per cub visit, just enough to satisfy them. Then they take the rest back. They need it more than I do. This is insane, Azila said. You're both starving. You're starving yourself to protest their starvation, but they're starving themselves to feed you. Everyone's dying and nothing is improving. Not nothing, Emma said. Those kids are eating what I give back. That's something. Zilax accessed the Block 7 surveillance feeds, his heart sinking as he reviewed the data. The Clevar colony refugees. 15 cubs total, ages equivalent to human 4 to 7-year-olds. Sole survivors of an orbital bombardment. Severe trauma cases. Wouldn't eat properly. Wouldn't speak. Wouldn't engage with therapeutic staff despite months of intervention. Wouldn't respond to anything. Until now. They're communicating with you, he said, watching footage of cubs chirping and gesturing toward Emma through the bars. We haven't gotten a single vocalization from any of them in 47 cycles. They've been with you for 6. Kids just need someone to listen, Emma said simply. They're bringing you their survival rations. You're giving most of it back. They're eating what you return. Zilax traced the impossible logic loop. You're all dying, just at different rates. Actually, Commander, I think we're all surviving. Emma's eyes drifted closed. Just at different rates. Azila checked her scanner again, frustration mounting. This makes no logical sense. None of you should be alive? The caloric mathematics don't work. You should be an organ failure. They should be comatose. But somehow you're all just functioning. Barely. Love's weird like that. Emma murmured, consciousness fading. Love? Zilax stared at the human. They're not your offspring. You've known them for 6 cycles. They're not even your species. But Emma was already asleep, her breathing shallow but steady. Impossibly, inexplicably steady. Retry Kael'thas arrived within the hour, his credentials as the station's senior psychological specialist preceding him. Zilax had worked with him for years, trusted his analysis implicitly. Show me, Kael'thas said without preamble. They gathered in the observation room, Zilax, Azila, and Kael'thas, watching the monitors as rest period began. Right on schedule, movement in the ventilation shafts. 3 cubs this time, the smallest leading the way. They coordinate, Kael'thas noted. Nonverbal communication? Interesting. The cubs emerged near Emma's cell. 2 carried ration packs, clearly stolen from somewhere. The third, the smallest, with blue facial markings, carried what looked like a piece of fruit from the station's hydroponics bay. Emma lay on her sleeping platform, barely moving. Zilax had reviewed her latest medical data. She was entering the critical threshold. Another 2 cycles like this and organ damage would become irreversible. The cubs pushed the food through the bars, making soft chirping sounds. Emma's eyes opened. Even through the monitor, Zilax could see how much effort that simple action cost her. She looked at the cubs, then at the food, and slowly shook her head. You first, sweethearts. Her voice was barely a whisper, caught by the cell's audio sensors. The smallest cub made a distressed sound, high-pitched and urgent. She pushed the fruit closer to Emma's hand. Emma pushed it back. Eat. I want to watch you eat. The cub's distress increased. The other 2 joined in, nudging the food toward Emma with small hands, their vocalizations rising in pitch and frequency. They're panicking, Azila said. Look at their stress markers. Kael'thas leaned forward. Wait. Emma, moving with visible pain, reached out and took the fruit. She brought it to her mouth and took a single, small bite. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. Immediately, the cub's distress sounds ceased. They watched her with intense focus, their small bodies relaxing. Emma handed the fruit back. Your turn now? The smallest cub took the fruit and, without hesitation, ate. The others followed with their ration packs. Within minutes, they'd consumed everything they'd brought, except for that one bite Emma had taken. Replay that, Kyle Thas ordered. From the beginning, show me every interaction from the past 6 cycles. For the next hour, they watched. Every visit followed the same pattern. Cubs brought food. Emma refused. Cubs became distressed. Emma took exactly one bite. Cubs immediately calmed and ate everything else. She's training them, Kyle Thas said finally, his voice filled with something like awe. She's conditioning them to eat by making her own eating contingent on theirs. By starving herself? Zilax's frustration boiled over. This is insane. She's dying to teach them to not die? Listen. Kyle Thas enhanced the audio from the most recent visit. Emma's whispered words, spoken as the cubs ate. You're more important. You have to learn that. You matter. Your life matters. She's not just training them to eat, Kyle Thas said slowly. She's teaching them self-worth. Azila pulled up the cubs' files, comparing behavioral data from before and after Emma's arrival. This is impossible. These cubs have been completely unresponsive to therapeutic intervention for months. We've had certified trauma specialists, juvenile behavioral experts, empathic counselors. Nothing worked. They wouldn't eat properly, wouldn't communicate, wouldn't engage. But they bonded with her immediately, Zilax said, within the first cycle. Because she needed them, Kyle Thas said, understanding dawning. Look at it from their perspective. They watched their entire colony die, watched adults fail to protect them, learned that they were helpless, burdensome, worthless. Then they find an adult who's suffering, an adult who needs help, an adult who's weak enough that even small cubs can care for her. She made herself vulnerable, Azila whispered, deliberately. She's showing them they have value, that they can help, that they can save someone. Kyle Thas rewound to footage of Emma accepting food with shaking hands, the cub's obvious joy at seeing her eat. Every bite she takes tells them they succeeded, they helped, they mattered. And then she returns the favor. Zilax followed the logic. By refusing to eat unless they do, she's teaching them that their survival matters to someone. She's not protesting, Kyle Thas said quietly. She's parenting. Zilax's comm unit exploded with priority alerts. The council had been monitoring the situation. Within minutes, they were in emergency session. Commander. Vex Thul's image appeared, surrounded by other council members. We've reviewed your findings. A human prisoner has somehow created a therapeutic bond with our most damaged refugee cases. Cases that defeated our best specialists. She's accomplished more in 6 cycles than we did in months, another council member added. But she's dying. They're all barely surviving. The mathematics don't work, Azila reported. The caloric intake is insufficient, but somehow they're stable. It's medically impossible. Humans, Vex Thul said with resignation, appear to run on impossible metrics. Kyle Thas studied the monitors where the cubs were now curled up near Emma's cell, sleeping peacefully for what security logs indicated was the first time since their rescue. She's teaching traumatized children to value themselves by refusing to value herself above them. It's therapeutic martyrdom. It's working, Zilak said. Somehow, impossibly, it's working. Then we have a new problem, Vexthul said. If we separate them, we undo everything she's accomplished. But if we don't intervene, they all die. On the monitor, Emma's hand slipped through the bars, resting near where the cubs slept. The smallest cub shifted, curling around Emma's fingers. She's not going to cooperate with any solution that doesn't include them, Zilak said with certainty. Then we find a solution that includes them all, Vexthul replied. Because losing this human would be a diplomatic disaster. But losing what she's teaching those cubs would be a moral one. Zilak entered Emma's cell alone, against Azila's medical advice. He needed to understand, needed to hear it directly from the human who turned every protocol they had into meaningless procedure. Emma sat against the wall, her face gaunt, but her eyes clear. She tracked his movement with the awareness of someone who'd spent too many years in crisis zones. Why? Zilak asked simply. Why refuse proper food from us, but accept it from starving cubs? Emma was quiet for a long moment, gathering strength. When she spoke, her voice was soft but steady. Because those babies needed to feel useful. Needed. Important. Explain. They watched their whole world die, Commander. Emma's eyes drifted to the wall separating her from Block 7. Watched adults fail to protect them. Watched grown-ups who promise safety become helpless. They learned the worst lesson kids can learn, that they're burdens, worthless, that adults can't help and they can't help themselves. So you made yourself helpless. I made myself someone they could help. Emma shifted, wincing. When they brought me food, stolen food, food they'd risked getting in trouble for, I was an adult who needed them. Maybe for the first time since their colony fell, they felt like they mattered, like they could do something that made a difference. Zilak's training, his decades of command experience, his entire worldview, all of it was fracturing around this simple explanation. You nearly died to give them purpose. I nearly died to give them back their childhood, Emma corrected gently. Kids aren't supposed to feel useless. They're not supposed to think they're burdens. By accepting their help, by letting them save me, I gave them proof that they have value, that they can help, that they matter. They needed to save someone. Emma's exhausted smile was radiant. And I let them save me. She chuckled weakly, the sound turning into a cough. Plus, your official rations taste like cardboard. Theirs has love. Zilak felt something shift in his chest, a sensation he couldn't name. This human had weaponized her own mortality, turned her vulnerability into therapy, created hope from starvation. The Council has authorized protocol changes, he said, effective immediately. Within the hour, the cubs were moved into Emma's expanded cell, officially labeled for therapeutic observation. Rations were increased across the board, triple portions for everyone, designated as nutritional therapy sessions. The change was immediate and dramatic. The cubs, seeing Emma in the same space, rushed to her. But this time, when they tried to give her food, she pointed to the abundance of ration packs stacked against the wall. Look, she said, her voice stronger already. Enough for everyone. You eat yours, I'll eat mine. Deal? The smallest cub, the one with blue markings, picked up a ration pack uncertainly. That's yours, Emma encouraged. All yours. You don't have to share. You don't have to save anyone. You can just eat. Because you deserve to eat. The cub looked at the food, then at Emma, then, tentatively, took a bite. Good job. Emma's praise was genuine, warm. Keep going. I'm eating too, see? She opened her own pack, making exaggerated eating motions. The other cubs joined in. Within minutes, all of them were eating properly. Not picking at food, not pushing it away, but actually consuming full portions. Azila watched from the doorway, her medical scanner almost falling from her hands. Weeks, she whispered. Months of therapy, specialist after specialist. And she fixed it in one day. Not fixed, Kael'thas corrected, standing beside her. Healing, there's a difference. Emma, her mouth full of what she'd previously called cardboard, started humming something. A tune from Earth, simple and repetitive. The cubs watched with fascination. This is a song from my planet, Emma said. It's called Pata Cake. Want to learn? The smallest cub chirped. An actual vocalization, clear and intentional. I'll take that as a yes. Emma began teaching them the hand motions, clapping softly, the cubs imitating her movements with growing confidence. By evening, the cell was filled with sounds that hadn't existed there before. Laughter, singing, playful chirping. Emma showed them how to stack the empty ration containers into towers, how to play simple games with their hands, how to braid the fabric strips from their bedding into friendship bracelets. She's teaching them to be children again, Zilax observed. She weaponized her own starvation into therapy. Azila said, still trying to process it. She turned a prison cell into a nursery. She made dying into healing. On the monitor, Emma dozed while the cubs curled around her, all of them sleeping peacefully with full bellies for the first time in cycles. Humans, Kael'thas said softly. Don't follow our logic, they follow something else entirely. What? Zilax asked. Love, Kael'thas said simply. They follow love, even when it makes no sense, especially when it makes no sense. And watching Emma sleep, surrounded by alien cubs who'd learned to hope again, Zilax couldn't argue with the results. 1 week later, Emma Johnson's official status changed from detained border violator to juvenile specialist consultant, with full station access and a salary that made her laugh out loud. You're paying me to hug traumatized kids? She'd said. I'd have done that for free. We know, Zilax had replied dryly. We watched you nearly die doing exactly that. The cubs were thriving. Each had been placed with station families eager to adopt. But they all demanded Emma time daily, a non-negotiable clause in every adoption agreement. The transformation was remarkable. Cubs who hadn't spoken in months now chattered constantly. Cubs who'd refused food now ate enthusiastically. Too enthusiastically, in Emma's case. Zilax found her in the main cafeteria, surrounded by all 15 cubs, who were engaged in what appeared to be a competitive feeding frenzy. No, I give Emma the best piece. The blue-marked cub, now called Lyra, argued, holding up a piece of roasted protein. But I got the sweet fruit, another cub countered. Emma loves sweet fruit. Guys, Emma laughed, her hands up in mock surrender. I promise I can feed myself now. See? Fully functional arms. Working jaw. I've got this. No. Lyra pushed a fork into Emma's hand. We take care of you. The other cubs chorused agreement, piling food onto Emma's tray with determined expressions. Azila approached, medical scanner in hand, more from habit than necessity these days. They learned that from you, you know. Emma looked at the cubs, her expression softening. Yeah, well, family takes care of family. You consider them family? They consider me family, Emma corrected. I just have the privilege of being considered. Zilax was at his command station, filing reports that would ripple through galactic databases for years. His fingers hovered over the final entry. Warning: human empathy operates at dangerous tactical levels. Standard logical frameworks insufficient for prediction. Recommend consulting human perspectives before implementing crisis solutions, particularly involving juvenile. Additional note: humans will sacrifice themselves to teach children self-worth. This behavior is impossible to prevent through standard protocols. Recommend maintaining adequate nutrition for all parties to minimize human martyrdom tendencies. He paused, then added, New Station Protocol 447. When human solutions seem illogical, they are likely operating on emotional metrics we don't measure. Consult anyway. Back in the cafeteria, Emma had given up protesting and was accepting food from each cub in turn, praising their selections with genuine enthusiasm. This fruit is really good, Kex. Great choice. And this bread is perfect, Mira. Still warm. Lyra appeared with something chocolate-covered, clearly stolen from the dessert station. For you, Emma. Emma mock glared. You know I'm not starving anymore, right? You don't have to steal desserts for me. Lyra's large eyes grew somehow larger. But you like when we share. Emma's eyes glistened. She pulled Lyra into a gentle hug. Yeah, buddy, I really do. The other cubs piled on, creating what Azila's medical scanner unhelpfully labeled as a mass affection event. Zilax watched from across the cafeteria, then pulled up his report one final time. He added a last line. Personal log, Commander Zilax. Note to command. Never underestimate human ability to turn imprisonment into family reunion. They defy every logical prediction. Also, increase dessert budget. The cubs have learned human sharing behaviors. Station supplies insufficient for sustained emotional exchanges. Request additional chocolate allocation immediately. He submitted the report and looked back at the cafeteria, where Emma was teaching the cubs an Earth nursery rhyme about twinkling stars. Their voices rose together, human and alien, blending in harmony that shouldn't work but somehow did. Just like everything else about Emma Johnson. Humans, Zilax was learning, didn't solve problems the way anyone expected. They solved them with love, even when, especially when, love made absolutely no logical sense. And somehow, impossibly, it worked every single time.